My sister sabotaged my wedding and now she wants to share my baby. A little background: my sister, Pam 30F, persuaded our parents and a few family members not to come to my wedding. She believed it was inappropriate for me to marry while she was divorcing. She resorted to lying and spreading rumors to get people to avoid me because apparently the truth alone wasn't enough to make them hate me. My spouse and I recently shared on social media that I'm in my second trimester of pregnancy. I'm 27F and Pam, and my parents found out this way after not speaking to me for over 3 years. They tried to mend things with me, but only after they learned that Pam is unable to conceive due to infertility. Despite multiple failed IVF cycles, she is determined to try again. However, Pam does not believe that surrogacy or adoption are viable options for her right now. Since I'm expecting, my parents thought it would be beneficial to make amends with Pam so she could spend time with a child who wasn't directly linked to her. They even suggested that my child have two mothers, claiming it would benefit me because I would receive more assistance. To be honest, I think my parents just want to pretend to be a happy family now that Pam can't have children of her own. During the call, I saw through their fake politeness. I told them that I would not accept their idea and that it was completely irrational to expect me to go along with it. It was ridiculous to think I would let Pam act as the mother of my future child. I made it clear that they should not have done this for my sake, but rather because they wanted to give Pam a plaything, as if my child were some sort of consolation prize. I explained that they should be apologizing for how they treated me, not using my pregnancy as an excuse to make things right. They took issue with what I said, claiming that Pam was willing to volunteer to help and that they were just offering assistance because they knew I would need help when the baby was born. They said I was being too harsh and that it was all perfectly innocent. I responded that my husband and my in-laws were already providing me with all the assistance I needed because I am the mother. I told them they should have avoided me like they did in the past if they found it so easy to do so. Now, here's where I might have gone too far. I suggested that Pam's infertility might be a result of her being a horrible person. After that call, I received a flood of texts from my parents, a few family members, and, of course, Pam herself. They claimed I was being needlessly cruel, and that I shouldn't kick people when they're already down. They said I should feel bad about what I said, but I honestly don't. To put things into perspective, while I was organizing my wedding, Pam had already been married for 2 years. She and her ex-husband had been dating for 3 years, and she had always known that he wanted a childless life. After a year of dating, she discussed this with our parents even though I was in the room, and they just kept talking as though I wasn't there. Pam had always been the beloved daughter, and even though we fought often, I didn't care if she was upset by my wedding. She knew from the start that she wanted children, even if her ex didn't. She tried to convince him to change his mind, but he refused. Eventually, their arguments became more frequent. At family gatherings, she would talk about how hard it was to stay married to him, but I never felt sympathy because I thought it was her fault for marrying someone who was clear about not wanting kids. I kept all of this to myself, knowing it would just create more problems. Eventually, my parents informed me that Pam had returned to live with them permanently after a fight with her husband. At that point, my spouse and I were already in the process of planning our wedding. When my parents learned Pam was divorcing, they told me I should postpone my wedding to avoid offending her. They said Pam was struggling because she had to put off her dreams of becoming a mother, and they wanted me to delay my wedding to spare her feelings. This was probably the most ridiculous and inconsiderate thing they ever asked me to do. I told them I would not delay my wedding for Pam, and whether she liked it or not, I was getting married. We were never close, so I didn't care what she thought. But my parents were upset because I wasn't putting Pam's feelings above my own plans. They warned me they wouldn't come if I didn't postpone. I couldn't believe they were going to such lengths for her. It was devastating, but I accepted it and told them they could do as they pleased. Pam didn't stop there. She made sure that other family members didn't attend, spreading lies about me to turn them against me. She claimed I had been trying to break up her marriage because I was envious of her and couldn't stand the idea of her having children before me. This was completely false. I had never been close to her husband, and if we had, I doubt Pam would have ever married him in the first place. Despite the lies, people started to believe her, and a number of family members decided not to attend my wedding. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, I was furious, but I didn't bother to reach out to anyone because it would have been my word against hers. On the day of the wedding, I barely noticed the empty seats because my spouse's friends and in-laws made sure I had an amazing time. I haven't forgiven Pam for what she did. She was vengeful and made sure I couldn't enjoy my wedding just because she didn't get her way. It was typical of her. She's always been this way. Most people grow out of this behavior by their late 20s, but sadly she hasn't. After the wedding, I cut Pam and my parents off entirely, and my animosity toward them only deepened. I saw Pam's ex-husband about a year later, and we ended up talking. He shared how Pam had delayed their divorce by using my wedding as an excuse. He even revealed the real reason for their divorce after months of arguing about having children. Pam's ex-husband had finally come around to the idea of having kids. But when he told her he was ready to consider it, she jokingly told him that he would have to accept it, even if he wasn't ready, because she had secretly stopped taking her birth control. She thought she could trick him into having a child, and when he found out, he was understandably furious. This wasn't about children, it was about betrayal. Hearing this made me even more resentful of Pam. I never told my parents the truth about what happened, but I now feel it was the right decision to keep quiet. I just want to move on with my life. My parents only reached out to me after they found out I was pregnant, and they wanted to make amends because they thought it would benefit Pam. They even suggested my child could have two mothers. But I made it clear that this would not happen. I don't want her to project herself. I don't trust her, and I don't think she would be a good mother. Update 1. I've been reading through a lot of the comments, and I want to thank everyone who took the time to share their thoughts and offer support. After thinking things through, I've come to the conclusion that no, I am not the jerk for what I said to Pam. Most of you seem to agree with me, which I appreciate, though I do understand that some people think I went a little too far with my comment. For clarity, the issue isn't just that my sister is struggling to have children. That in itself is a heartbreaking situation, and while I feel sorry for her, it doesn't excuse the things she did to me leading up to my wedding. What I said about Pam's inability to conceive being a consequence of her personality is a reflection of everything I've gone through with her and my parents. It was a one-off remark in the heat of the moment, but it still carries the weight of years of frustration. For a long time, I've tried to let go of my resentment, but the things she did during my wedding and her complete lack of remorse afterward have made it really difficult for me to do that. Pam and my parents have been playing the victim, trying to make me feel guilty for not letting go of the past, but they're missing the point entirely. I have tried to forgive and move on before, but they keep bringing up my wedding like it's all about them. It's like they have no sense of the harm they've caused me. To them, everything revolves around their poor Pam, who couldn't get what she wanted out of life, and now that I'm pregnant, they think they can finally get me to play nice and be a part of this happy family. The thing is, I've already been through too much. The way my parents and Pam disregarded my feelings when I was planning my wedding is still something I can't let go of. The idea that they want me to share my baby with Pam as though she's the second mother is insulting. I don't think they even understand how inappropriate that request is. The child isn't a cure for Pam's infertility issues, and I'm not going to let them make it into some weird, twisted way of compensating for her lack of children. The fact that my parents have brought up this idea just goes to show how little they really care about my feelings and the boundaries I've tried to set. They've manipulated me into thinking that if I don't act like everything's fine, then I'm being too harsh. But this is about so much more than just my pregnancy. This is about years of manipulation, false accusations, and a complete lack of respect for my autonomy. I'm also still bothered by how they've been pretending to be all polite and contrite about the situation. It feels so fake, and I can see right through it. They don't really care about making amends or being a part of my life. Again, they just want access to my child. When I told them I wasn't going to allow Pam to have that kind of relationship with my baby, they tried to act like I was being unreasonable. But the truth is, they only reached out to me after they found out I was pregnant. They didn't care about the years of hurt they caused. They cared about getting close to my child. That's what bothers me the most. I won't apologize for standing my ground. If they want to pretend like everything's fine, then they can do that without me. I'm not going to give in to their guilt tripping. My spouse and my in-laws are already providing all the support I need, and I don't need my parents or Pam to come into the picture, especially not when they're only doing it for their own benefit. So for the time being, I'm not backing down. I'll continue with my pregnancy and ignore the drama. The people who matter to me already understand what happened, and that's all I need. Update 2. So things have escalated a bit since my last update. After I posted my previous message about Pam and my parents, the fallout from my family has been both surprising and exactly what I expected. Pam and my parents have been doing everything they can to play the victim, using social media and any other means available to spread their version of events. They've been posting passive-aggressive comments about me, indirectly mentioning me in posts that paint me as the bad guy. Of course, they're leaving out the part where Pam's lies and manipulation led to the collapse of my wedding. Instead, they've been focusing on the fact that I made fun of Pam's infertility. I had been expecting this. They've never once apologized for how they treated me, and now that they're getting some backlash from the rest of the family, they're trying to deflect blame. I'm used to being the scapegoat in our family, but now that I've spoken up, they're trying to make me look like the villain. They're spreading the narrative that I'm the one who ruined Pam's marriage, not her manipulative behavior, which is the most infuriating part of all of this. But here's the thing, I'm not letting them manipulate me into feeling guilty for telling the truth. I knew this would happen, and I've learned to distance myself from the people who refuse to see things from my perspective. Most of my family is backing Pam and my parents, but a few have started to realize how toxic and manipulative Pam really is. It's been eye-opening to see who supports me in this, and I've been really thankful for the ones who have reached out to offer encouragement. I've been letting them know the truth, how Pam actively worked to destroy my wedding, spread lies about me, and manipulated people into siding with her, and some of them have been shocked. In the end, though, I've realized that I don't need to explain myself to anyone else. If people can't see the truth, then that's on them, not me. I'm still not apologizing for what I said to Pam. I know it was harsh, but in my opinion, it was the truth. The fact that Pam can't seem to let go of the past and continues to try and manipulate everyone around her speaks volumes about the kind of person she is. If anything, I should have said it to her face a long time ago instead of keeping it inside. The last thing I want is to see her projecting onto my child like she's the second mother. That's not going to happen, no matter what my parents or Pam. The worst part, though, is how my parents have been going out of their way to undermine me in front of other family members. They've been asking people to avoid me, claiming that I'm being cruel for standing my ground. They're acting like I've wronged them somehow when, in reality, they're the ones who've disrespected me over and over again. I've been getting messages from family members who are genuinely concerned about me, asking if I'm okay and if I'm really as bad as my parents are making me out to be. Of course, I've been telling them the truth, but I'm not engaging with anyone who hasn't shown me the respect I deserve. The situation has gotten so ridiculous that I've started to ignore all their attempts at communication. I've blocked them on social media and have made it clear that I'm not interested in any of their apologies. They've done enough damage already, and there's no fixing what's broken between us. I'm not holding out hope for a genuine reconciliation because I don't think it's possible with people who think they can trample over your boundaries and then expect you to just forgive them when they need something. At this point, I'm just focusing on my pregnancy and trying to enjoy this new chapter of my life. I'm not going to let Pam or my parents make me feel guilty for protecting my family from their toxicity. Update 3. After everything that has gone down, I finally had a conversation with Pam and my parents about the situation. Spoiler alert, it didn't go the way they were hoping. They've been harassing me for the past couple of weeks, trying to get me to apologize, and it got to the point where I felt I had to at least hear them out. But honestly, I'm done. They only reached out to me after they realized I wasn't going to back down, and their main concern was that I remove my post about Pam's actions. They were fully prepared to apologize, but only if I agreed to take down the truth of what happened. It was such a transparent move. They weren't apologizing because they actually felt remorse. They just wanted to save face. They've done enough harm to me over the years, and now they were trying to manipulate me into erasing the truth because they couldn't handle the consequences of their actions. I told them that I wasn't going to remove the post. I've already said everything I need to say to them, and if they're not willing to own up to their mistakes, then I don't see any reason to engage with them anymore. After this conversation, I blocked them on all platforms. It was honestly a relief to do so. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I'm done dealing with people who don't respect me, and who only care about their own image. My decision to remove the post wasn't for them. It was because I don't want to keep this drama alive. I want peace and happiness moving forward, and I want to be surrounded by people who genuinely care about me, not people who are only interested in what they can get from me. So now I've deleted the last remaining ties I had to my parents and Pam. They can keep trying to guilt-trip me all they want, but it won't change anything. I'm moving forward with my life. I've realized that family isn't just about blood, it's about people who respect you, support you, and make you feel safe and loved. Unfortunately, my family doesn't fit that bill anymore. I'm focused on my pregnancy and my future, and I'm no longer letting these toxic people take up any more of my energy. Thanks again to everyone who's been supportive. Your words mean a lot to me. Update 4. It's been a few months since I last posted here, and I can honestly say that things have only become more complicated, but in a way, I'm starting to feel like I'm finally in control of my own life. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be cutting off my entire family, I would have laughed in disbelief. But now I see it for what it is necessary. I still get people reaching out to me, trying to tell me how harsh I've been or how families should stick together. I'm done explaining myself. I've had enough. I'm now well into my second trimester, and the pregnancy has been. There are the usual moments of joy and anticipation, but there's also a layer of anxiety, especially with everything going on. I feel like I have to compartmentalize my life, keeping the pregnancy and my family situation separate, but for the most part, I've found peace. The first few months after I cut ties with Pam and my parents were a bit rough. I won't lie and say I didn't feel that pang of guilt sometimes, those old voices in my head telling me I was being too harsh, that maybe I was overreacting. But those voices are fading now. I've realized that the guilt wasn't about me or the decisions I've made. It was the emotional residue of years of manipulation. It was their voices, not mine, that I was hearing. The hardest part of this has definitely been the loneliness. I thought in some way that I would always have my family to lean on, especially once the baby came. That's the thing about family, no matter how bad they treat you, There's this ingrained expectation that they'll always be there for the important milestones. But now that I've removed them from my life, it feels, not in a bad way necessarily, just in a way that forces me to rely on myself more than I ever have before. And it's not as scary as I thought it would be. In fact, there's a certain freedom in it. I've stopped worrying about appeasing people who have shown me over and over again that they don't care about my happiness. I still get the occasional message from my mom or Pam, mostly passive-aggressive comments or half-hearted attempts at guilt tripping. The most recent one was from my mom, who sent me a long email about how distraught she was that I hadn't reached out for family support during my pregnancy. She mentioned how hurtful it was that I wasn't sharing this special time with them. I read the email, but I didn't respond. What's the point? They're only interested in the things that revolve around them, the things that serve their own needs. The irony of it all is that they still haven't apologized for any of the past behavior that led me to make this decision in the first place. They act as if it's all about my coldness toward them, but I know better now. So I've just stopped engaging. I haven't even mentioned my pregnancy to them or responded to any of their outreach. I'm so far beyond the point of trying to make them understand. And if I'm being honest, it feels really good. The relief that came with this decision has been palpable. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm the one calling the shots in my life and not them. As for the baby, I'm doing everything I can to make sure this new life grows up in a peaceful. My husband and I are closer than ever. He's been my rock through all of this, and it's been so amazing to watch him support me as I go through this transition. We've started to focus on setting boundaries together, not just with my family, but with everyone else who might try to push us around. We've been thinking about how we want to raise our child and what kind of family we want to build. I'm not naive enough to think it will all be smooth sailing from here on out, but at least we are building something healthy from the ground up, something that I've never had before. I've also started to build a support system that actually feels good. I've reconnected with some friends who had fallen by the wayside over the years because of the drama with my family, and it's been amazing to finally open up to them without the constant fear of judgment or manipulation. I found myself surrounded by people who respect me, people who understand what I'm going through, and who genuinely care about me, not because I'm part of some family obligation, but because they want to be a part of my life. It's such a refreshing change. But it's also opened my eyes to something else: the people who are still trying to reach out despite everything. Some of my extended family members, cousins, aunts, uncles, they've all started texting or calling to ask why I've gone silent. It's frustrating, because while I know they mean well, it feels like they're still too blind to the truth. They've only reached out when it's convenient for them, when they want to know why I'm not playing the game they've all been playing. A few of them have mentioned Pam and my parents in passing, expressing their concerns over me shutting everyone out. Again, they don't understand. They're so wrapped up in the narrative that Pam and my parents have been pushing, they don't even see the truth of what's happened. I did end up speaking to one cousin. She's always been more open-minded than the others. We had a long talk, and it felt like a bit of a breakthrough. She didn't try to minimize what I'd been through. She didn't try to gaslight me or tell me I was being too harsh. Instead, she told me that she understood, that she could see why I felt the way I did. That was such a relief, just to have someone in my family acknowledge that I wasn't crazy, that my feelings weren't misplaced. It made all the difference. She's one of the few people in my family who has been willing to actually listen and understand without judgment. I won't lie, it's been hard. There have been moments of doubt, especially when I see all the pictures of other families bonding and celebrating milestones together. I've had moments of wishing I could have had that parents who were there for me, a sister who was supportive. But then I remember why I made the choices I did. Every time I start feeling the sting of that longing, I remind myself of the years of emotional abuse, of the endless manipulation and guilt trips of Pam's jealousy, and the complete disregard for my feelings. The relief I feel now, even in the quiet moments of solitude, is worth it. The truth is, there's a part of me that will always wonder how things could have been different if they had acted like real family. But I've come to realize that the what-ifs don't serve me. I can't change them, and I can't change what's happened. But what I can change is how I move forward, who I let into my life, and that's exactly what I'm doing. In the end, I know this was the right choice. I'm creating a life filled with love, respect, and boundaries, everything I never had growing up. It's not perfect, but it's mine, and I'm proud of that. Thanks again for all the support and kind words. It really does mean the world to me.